Pete the Cat, Valentine's Day is Cool by Kimberly and James Dean. Pete the Cat thinks Valentine's Day isn't cool. That is, until he realizes how many special cats there are in his life. Join Pete the Cat on this awesome Valentine's Day adventure. It was the day before Valentine's Day and Pete was riding his skateboard home when he saw his friend Callie. She was holding a big red heart that said, Love, L-O-V-E. Have you finished your Valentine's Day cards? Asked Callie. No, Valentine's Day is not cool, Pete said. Oh, Pete, Valentine's Day is my favorite holiday. It's a day to tell people how special they are to you, Callie insisted. Pete skated on, but something in the back of his mind told him that Callie might be right. By the time Pete got home, he had decided that Callie was right about Valentine's Day. So he got out his pencils, paper, crayons, and markers and sat down at the kitchen table. First, Pete started to work on a card for his friend Larry. Pete made several cards with big red hearts, but he was not happy with his work. Pete wanted to make the perfect cards for every cat in his class. I'll never get all these cards done in time, Pete told his mom. To Larry. Pete's mom smiled. Just do your best, she said. Just tell Larry why he is so cool. There's something cool about every cat. Pete got back to work. He thought hard about what was cool about Larry. To Larry, Happy Valentine's Day from Pete. Perfect, Pete said. After that, it didn't take Pete long to make cards for all the boys. To Josh, to Trey, to Rob, to John. For Kimberly, love Pete. Then Pete made special cards for all the girls and wrote Love Pete for each one. And of course, he made the biggest heart-shaped card for his mom. The next day, Pete and Callie waited for the bus together. I decided you were right. Valentine's Day is cool. That's awesome, Callie said. By the way, I'm having a Valentine's Day party at my house after school if you want to come. The bus pulled up then, and Pete and Callie got on. Mr. Ted, the bus driver, smiled and said good morning. But as soon as they were in their seats, Pete put his head in his paws. What's wrong? Callie asked. I forgot to make a card for Mr. Ted, he cried. For Mr. Ted. Then Pete thought, but I can make him an awesome card before we get to school. Pete pulled out a piece of paper and colored pencils from his backpack. He began to draw. Happy Valentine's Day! Thanks for picking us up every day for school, Pete and Callie said as they handed Mr. Ted his Valentine. Thank you, Mr. Ted told them. You just made my day. For Mr. Ted, Pete and Callie. What about Miss Gold, the crossing guard? We need to make her a Valentine too, Pete practically shouted. Let's do it, Callie said. Let's make Valentines for everyone. Pete and Callie got super busy making cards for everyone. To Miss Gold, Happy Valentine's Day, Police. Happy Valentine's Day, Firefighters. Happy Valentine's Day, Reed. After school, Pete went to Callie's party. He rang the bell. Ding dong. And then he froze. Callie opened the door only to find our friend in a panic. What's wrong, Pete? I forgot something very important, Pete admitted. What? Callie asked. I just realized I forgot to make a card for you, Pete said. That's okay, Pete. Cards are just a way of showing you care. Hanging out with you, that's way better than any card. This is the best Valentine's Day ever. And happy Valentine's Day to you. Love, Pete. Hey, was that cool? Please like, subscribe, and share for more. Pete the Cat, Rock On, Mom and Dad by James Dean. Mom and Dad do so much for Pete. He decides to say thank you with a rockin' surprise. But how can Pete show Mom and Dad how much he loves them? In this groovy story, Pete learns that it's not what you do, but how you do it that matters, so long as it comes from the heart. It's Monday morning, and Pete the Cat is late for school. His alarm didn't go off. Does Pete have to worry? Not at all. Dad has made him breakfast. Mom has packed his backpack. Pete is even going to make the bus. Pete knows that Mom and Dad do so much for him. Mom helps him practice baseball. Dad takes him to his guitar lessons, music lessons this way. Every day, Mom and Dad do 100 little things, and Pete realized that he's never really said thank you. Today, Pete is going to surprise Mom and Dad with something totally awesome. But what should he do? Book, book, book. He could make them breakfast in bed. He could pick them a bouquet of flowers. He could clean the house. Or mow the lawn. Or change the oil in Dad's car. That all seems nice, but it doesn't seem like enough. Pete really wants to do something that they'll never forget. Pete talks to his big brother Bob. Bob is the smartest guy he knows. What can I do to tell Mom and Dad how much I love them, Pete asks. It doesn't matter what you do, Bob says. It's how you do it. So long as it's from the heart, Mom and Dad will totally dig it. That gives Pete an idea. There is one thing Pete can do better than any other cat he knows. Rock out! So Pete writes Mom and Dad a song, and it goes a little something like this. Mom and Dad, you are the best. I love you more than all the rest. Yeah, I do. I cannot count all the things you do. I know it's all because of you. Yes, it is that I love music and I love art. And I love you with all my heart. Yes, I do. It is the best surprise ever. Hey, was that cool? Please like, subscribe, and share for more. Pete the Cat's Wacky Taco Tuesday by Kimberly and James Dean. It's Tuesday and Pete is hungry for delicious tacos, but the taqueria is closed. Pete has an idea. He and his family will make their own tacos. Will they have the right ingredients to save Taco Tuesday? Today is Pete the Cat's favorite day of the week. That's because today is Taco Tuesday! On the way to the taqueria, Pete daydreams about all the tasty tacos he's going to eat. Pineapple, avocado, fish. He wants them all. Welcome to the Cat City Mall. Meow tacos, catnip ice cream. Meow tacos closed today. Oh no! There's a problem. The taqueria is closed. This is not groovy at all, Bob says. Now what are we going to eat? Pete doesn't panic. He knows what to do. Let's make our own tacos. Dad makes rad taco shells. Bob is awesome at making salsa. And Mom's fish is far out. Yay! The family cheers. Back at home, Bob, Mom, Dad, and Pete get right to work. When the dough is ready, Pete starts to roll it into small balls. Then he has a better idea. Groovy, Bob says. Giant taco shells. Pete nods. Now we can fill them with even more tasty treats. Uh-oh, Dad forgot to go to the store. They are all out of beans and cheese. But they've got pickles, marshmallow fluff, maple syrup, mustard, ketchup. No worries, Pete says. We can use these instead. Bob fills his taco with pickles and bananas. Yum! Dad fills his with berries and cream. Mom makes a green taco, cucumbers, peppers, and broccoli. It's Pete's turn to fill his taco. He chooses jelly beans and marshmallow fluff. Then he adds some maple syrup. Gurk, 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 gurk. Sweet, Pete says. Too sweet, Mom says. Pete looks at his taco. Mom's right. It needs something else. But what? Pickles? No. Mustard? No. Then Pete sees what he wants. Anchovies. Pete takes a big bite. Now that is one groovy taco, he says. Pete hears a knock on the door. What smells so good, Callie asks. Can we try, asks Gus. Even Grumpy Toad wants a taco. Wow, these tacos are out of sight, Callie shouts. Grumpy Toad agrees. Best tacos I've ever had. We should do this every Taco Tuesday, Mom says. Pete grins. Making tacos was fun. But I'd rather eat them. Hey, was that cool? Please like, subscribe, and share for more. Pete the Cat and the Mysterious Smell by Kimberly and James Dean. Pete and his friends are so excited because it's pizza day at school. But before they can enjoy their delicious meal, they notice a peculiar smell and decide to investigate. They suspect it could be rotten radishes, stinky socks, or trash from the dumpsters. But after checking the salad bar, gym, and playground, they still can't find the source of the smell. Will Pete and his friends ever track down the stink? Dong, dong, dong! One day at lunchtime, Pete and Grumpy Toad notice something peculiar. Pete sniffs the air. Ugh, do you smell that? P.U., Grumpy Toad says. What is that smell? I hope it's not lunch, says Pete. No way, Grumpy Toad replies, because today is Pizza Day! The pizza smells great, says Grumpy Toad, rubbing his belly. It does, says Pete, but something else still stinks. Blech! What is that smell? Callie asks, joining the pizza line. I don't know, says Pete, but we have to find out. It's awful. Callie thinks. Maybe it's some rotten radishes in the salad bar. The salad bar. Ew, gross, says Grumpy Toad. Did you find the smell? Asks Callie. No, I just don't like salad, Grumpy Toad says. Pete sniffs around the salad bar. Whoa, says Alligator. What is that smell? It's not rotten radishes, Pete replies. Maybe it's some stanky socks in the gym, suggests Alligator. Everyone looks under the bleachers and checks behind the ball bins. What is that smell? Gus says. Gross! It's not stanky socks, Alligator says. Says Gus. Maybe it's some funky gunk from the science room. The science room? Pete and his friends check every project in progress for funky gunk, but they still can't find the smell. Woo-wee, says Bob. What is that smell? It's not funky gunk, Pete says. Funky gunk. Bob thinks. Maybe it's that gloppy glue in the art room. Or we could check the pizza line again, Grumpy Toad suggests. But his friends are already dashing off. Dash, dash, dash. Pete and his pals search the art room, top to bottom, inside and out, high and low. No gloppy glue anywhere. Yikes, says Turtle. What is that smell? We're trying to find out, groans Pete. It's getting worse. Says Turtle. Maybe it's some nasty trash out in the dumpsters. They head outside to the empty dumpsters. Nope, Turtle sighs. Not a scrap of nasty trash in sight. The smell is stronger than ever. Blah, says Squirrel. What is that smell? Grumpy Toad groans. We don't know. Did you check your shoes? Squirrel asks. Maybe someone has stinky sneakers. Pete and Grumpy Toad check everyone's shoes, but no one has stinky sneakers. Now, they all want to know. What is that smell? Spread out, Pete directs. We'll look everywhere. By the time we find the smell, Grumpy Toad grumbles, pizza day will be over. They look under the swings, behind the monkey bars, from the top of the basketball hoop to the bottom of the slide. Woo! No one can find the source of that terrible smell. Finally, Grumpy Toad gives up. His tummy gurgles. I think I'll have a snack while I wait for them, he says, and opens his backpack. Uh-oh! Grumpy Toad pulls an icky, drippy blob from his backpack. Whoops, he giggles. Pete gasps. Grumpy Toad, that's the smell! Yeah, I think I forgot to eat my snack yesterday, Grumpy Toad says. Or maybe it was last week. Or... Callie pinches her nose. But what is it? More like, what was it, Bob says, trying to wave away the smell. Pete and Grumpy Toad throw the mystery blob into the trash. That smelled way worse than rotten radishes, stanky socks, funky gunk, gloppy glue, nasty trash, and stinky sneakers, all put together, says Grumpy Toad. P.U. Totally, Pete agrees. But now that horrible smell is gone, and finally, Grumpy Toad cheers. Yay! We can eat some pizza! Good friends stick together, even when things are a little stinky. Hey, was that cool? Please like, subscribe, and share for more. Pete the Cat Out of This World by James Dean. 5, 4, 3, 2, fun! Lift off with Pete the Cat as he heads to space camp. Pete floats in zero gravity, flies to the moon, and even plays a groovy interstellar song for his fellow catstronauts. Adventure abounds when Pete takes a trip that's out of this world. It's a great day. Pete the Cat is going to space camp. Welcome to space camp. Pete meets his bunkmate Glenn. As they unpack, there is an announcement. Welcome, space campers. Please head to the classroom. Your mission begins now. Time to suit up, says Pete. He and Glenn put on their uniforms and race to class. There are so many cool things to do and super neat stuff to see. Astronauts Tom and Chris talk about the trips they've taken, and they give a sneak peek at future space trips. It would be totally rad to go to space, says Pete. Mars, Earth, and the Sun. The campers find out what it feels like to be an astronaut. They go in the zero gravity chamber. Whoa, 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 whoa. They ride in the rovers. Vroom. They even build rockets. Pete's rocket flies very, very far. Way to go, Pete, shouts Glenn. Next stop is Mission Control. We have some exciting news, says Tom. Our next flight leaves today. We're going to the moon, and we have room for more. Mission Control, Cat Space Program. Pete, do you want to go? Asks Sally. That would be awesome, says Pete. It's time to buckle up and settle into the space capsule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift off. Their ship speeds through space. They blast past the satellite and even spot a comet. Whoa! Tom and Sally have a rockin' surprise for Pete. His guitar! He plays a groovy interstellar song for them. Mission Control listens in. In no time at all, they arrive on the moon. They are ready to explore. The astronauts collect rocks and map out the moon's surface. Pete has a very important job to do. He straps on a jetpack and heads towards Mars. He takes tons of pictures. Oh no! Pete lost track of time and the moon is far, far away. He has to make it back to the ship before it blasts off. Phew! Pete made it back in the nick of time. The astronauts head home, and there's time for a few more tunes. Pete sure knows how to make an entrance. Pete's trip to outer space was out of this world. Still, he's psyched to have his feet back on solid ground. Rock it on, Pete! Hey, was that cool? Please like, subscribe, and share for more. Pete the Cat and the Bedtime Blues by Kimberly and James Dean. Pete the Cat and his friends are having so much fun playing and surfing in the sun, they don't want the day to end. Pete has an idea. How about a sleepover? Groovy! As the night gets later, it's time for bed. This cool cat needs to catch some Z's, but Pete's friends aren't ready to go to sleep just yet. Then Pete has another idea. Will it work? Pete and the gang had a great day. They'd been at the beach, surf and sun, and tons of fun. But when the sun went down, they didn't want the fun to end. Pete had an idea. Hey, how about a sleepover? More time for tons of fun. Groovy! Pete's place. Let's go! The party was far out, but they knew they couldn't stay up all night. The gang decided it was time to say goodnight. On went the pajamas and out went the light. Good night, Gus. Good night, Alligator. Good night, Toad. Good night, Pete. Pete was just about to catch some Z's when... Clap! 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 Who did that? Pete asked. It was me, said Grumpy Toad. I don't want to go to bed. I want to clap instead. Pete covered his head. This cool cat needs to go to bed. Good night, Gus. Good night, Alligator. Good night, Toad. Good night, Pete. Time to sleep. Pete tried again to catch some Z's when... Rat-a-tat-tat. Who did that? Pete asked. It was me, said Gus the platypus. I don't want to go to bed. I want to jam instead. Pete covered his head. This cool cat needs to go to bed. Time to sleep. Good night, Gus. Good night, Alligator. Good night, Toad. Good night, Pete. Pete closed his eyes to catch some Z's when he heard... Munch, munch, munch. Pete had a hunch. It was Alligator. He was always up for eating. What could Pete do? All the clapping, rat-a-tat-tatting, and munching was giving him the bedtime blues. Pete had a groovy idea. Groovy. He got out his favorite bedtime story and started to read, first to himself and then to the gang. Pete the Cat and the 10 Little Monsters. Pete noticed it was finally quiet. Shh. No more clapping, no more rat-a-tat-tatting, and no more munching. They all settled down. No one made a sound. Pete yawned and turned off the light. Oh. Good night. Sleep tight. Time to catch some Z's. Tomorrow was another day for surfing, sun, and tons of fun. Hey, was that cool? Please like, subscribe, and share for more.